Hi everyone, my name is Dipali Kuzrest, and once again, on behalf of AWS User Group Delhi NCR, I welcome you all to this session. Our last few sessions were advanced level session where we had a great deep dive on the security concepts. While I'm glad to share that in last 4 5 months we had 80 plus new joiners in our group, and we got multiple requests to conduct some elementary level sessions to do some hand holding for newbies in this AWS journey. So here we are to conduct a series of AWS session which will help you to quickly start your AWS journey. I also have my fellow member Rajat with me to co-host these sessions. So Rajat, can you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dipali. Hi, good morning, everyone. Myself, Rajat Arora. I am working as a Vice President in NetWest Group, New Delhi area, and I am working here as a cloud expert. And I have versatile experience working on the various cloud technologies, which involves Windows Azure Cloud, Google Cloud, and primarily for AWS Cloud. So I have done lots of projects with AWS, including migration of existing applications and creating new applications on AWS. And I have done AWS Solution Architect Associate certification as well in past. And presently, I am associated with the AWS User Groups NCR, and I am one of the group leader for this activity. Over to you, Dipali.
Great, thanks, Rajat. So during the session, if you get any questions, then feel free to post them in the comment box and we will address all of those in the end of the session. So let's start with the content. So if we look at the technology trends, this picture depicts that we started with mainframe era of technology somewhere in 1950s, and then we got into the personal computing model, which eventually got emerged as a client server model for distributed computing. And then there was a time of web services where we were using the third party services using APIs. And current generation is the cloud computing generation, and it is going to be serverless in near future. So what is this cloud computing? What it is all about? So the definition says that cloud computing is a term which broadly used to define on-demand delivery of IT resources. And what are these IT resources? These are like servers, storage, databases, networking, any softwares or applications over the internet, and with pay as you go pricing model. So here we have these two key terms to understand: on demand delivery of IT resources and pay as you go pricing. So let's try to understand them via an example. Let's say you, along with your friends, decided to start a startup company where you want to create a unique e-com application. So, bare minimum, what all things you will need? Would anyone like to put their answer in the comment box? That in order to start a startup company where you want to create a unique e-com application, what all things you will need? I'm just giving a pause for a few seconds so you can type in your answers. Okay, so I think bare minimum we will need, let's say we have four friends, then we will need four machines, and then we will need some software licenses, and we will also need maybe some office space so we can collaborate, and some network connectivity so our machines can talk to each other. So this kind of set of bare minimum we will need to start a small company. So now, what do you think? How much time it will take to do this setup? So even if we order these machines today, then we will not be able to start on this project today because I think it will take few days time to do this desired setup for the machines and the installation and the LAN setup and everything. And even if I'm ordering these online, then also it will take few days to deliver and do the desired setup. So let's say we will need few days or a week's time to this setup. So, though I have all the skills to start my dream application today, but still I need to wait for few days if I'm talking about the traditional setup. But if I'm using cloud resources, then I have an option that I can start on my dream application today itself. And we will see that how we can really do that. All right, so that's what we mean by on demand delivery, that these resources should be available whenever we need it. It should not be the case that I want to start on a project today, but I need to wait for the bare minimum hardware or softwares for few days. That should not be the case. On demand means if I need it now, it should be available now. And now let's try to understand this pay as you go pricing. So, pay as you go means the way we use utility bills and all, the way we use electricity, water bills, that how much we consume, we pay only for that amount of resource. Similar principle applies here in cloud. So, if I talk about this example that we ordered machines today, means we already spent let's say for four machines, let's say each machine cost us 50,000 INR. Then we have made an investment of 2 lakh rupees, and then some additional cost for the software licenses and lens setup. So we have made an investment of 2 lakh plus rupees, but still I'm not in position to start. While in cloud, what happens that I got the desired machines of desired configurations, and then I can start using them right now. But let's say I'm a college student, I am in final year of my college, and I need to submit my assignment. So I really started on this very enthusiastically. But I got my exams. So I need to really hold it for a few days, 15 days, 20 days, like that. So even if I have made the investment, but still I'm not utilizing those resources on ongoing basis. But I have already spent the money. But in cloud, what we can do that, okay, it's fine that I had time for a few days, so I started working on my project. But now, due to exams, I need to put that on hold. So I will stop my machines and I will not be charged for this idle duration when I'm not working on my project. So that is the beauty of cloud resources, that we will be charged only for the duration we have actually used the resources. But one thing to remember here, that this is something does not happen automatically. So we need to be vigilant enough that we need to stop these resources. We need to stop those machines when we are not using it. The way we switch off lights and fans when we don't use them. So same principle applies here in the cloud. So I hope these two things are clear, that what do we mean by on demand delivery of IT resources and how this pay as you go pricing model works. Let's move on to discuss few other advantages of cloud. And these principles, these hold goods for any cloud provider, whether it is like AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle, Rackspace, anything. So these are the generic cloud concepts, and it holds good for any cloud provider. So the very first advantage listed here is that go global in minutes. So how it works, that for example, the company we started it in NCR region, and after a few months we realized that okay, my business is doing well in NCR. Now I should really expand it to the other regions of India or maybe to other countries. So traditionally, how you will do? You will go to that place and you will do some market survey, then you will buy an office space, and if it is in other country, then you will do some paperwork, you will sort out your visa and everything. So you will need to invest time and money and a lot of efforts to set up a new office at the new location. While if you have your application running in cloud, then you can simply launch this application with minimal overheads in few clicks. Okay, and that we will show you today that how you can really do that. Rajat, you want to add something here?
Yeah, this is a very good example that Dipali mentioned. Like, if you're running an application in India and if you want to launch the same application or same e-commerce site in US, then you have to do lots of pre-work, like reach out to US, apply for the visa, and then you have to spend lots of money. Whereas if you're using a cloud, you just need to work with a partner company and you need to abide by the legal contracts, and then you can just deploy your application sitting here in India, in anywhere in the globe, something like USA, Australia, or wherever you want to do the business. So you just can launch your application directly sitting here in India to any region which is available here in global map of the AWS cloud or any other cloud.
Yeah.
So moving to the next point, which is trade capital expenses for variable expenses. So as in the previous example, Dipali mentioned, if you are setting up a startup company and you are investing at least 2 lakh plus amount just to start basic business idea and experiment with the things. So that is still a huge amount that you have to spend. And in case you feel like there's a change in your idea and you want to change that application, or during the application development you figure out that the business model that you are thinking of further needs more involvement of more people, which is adding 4 more people to the business to bringing up to the speed. So you again have to invest a huge capital investment, which is a big challenge majorly for the startup applications, or even if we talk about a big enterprise applications, they have to do lots of pre-planning and pre-approvals for investing any of the big amounts. So that is where it gives you a huge advantage. Like with the advent of cloud, there is no need to invest the capital money. You just can use the services from AWS or other cloud, and you'll use the pay as you go model, which will convert all your capital expenses to the variable expenses.
Yeah, and if we move on to the another benefit, which is a stop guessing capacity, this means that in cloud, uh, like if I talk about the example which we are discussing, so let's say in the beginning we didn't do much detailed analysis for our application, that exactly what kind of technology stack or what kind of configuration we will need to build this application. So we ordered standard machine, let's say we ordered 8 GB machines for this project. But later, when we actually started on the project, when we completed our detailed design, then we realized the kind of technology stack we need, we will need at least 16 GB machines. So, again, to upgrade those machines to 16 GB, we will need to wait for at least a day so we can get this upgrade done. But if you are using the cloud resources, you can upgrade or downgrade your resources within few clicks. Because it might also happen that you ordered like big size, big configuration machines in the beginning, but when you are into the development phase, then you are not using that capacity what you have actually bought. So you are means wasting your money when you have high configuration machines but you are not actually using that configuration. So you can simply downgrade your machines to a lower configuration time being, and when you launch your application actually in production, then again you can upgrade it to the desired capacity. So that's how you get rid of stop guessing that how much capacity you need for your project. So you have got a lot of flexibility that you can upgrade or downgrade your infrastructure at any point in time.
So any one more example I would like to add here, like you initially started with an idea of developing an e-commerce application, and you did some business market research and developed a basic application, but later on you decided maybe from Java you want to change your technical technology stack to .NET or any of the upcoming languages like Python, because it's very easy to use and set up, and gives you a quick option to try out things. So even for that as well, you don't have to scrap your old hardware and you don't have to order the new laptops. On cloud, you can just shut down the existing machines or terminate the existing machines and request for the new machines instantly. So this gives you lots of flexibility, using which there is no need to guess the capacity or spend too much time in planning, doing a lots of pre-analysis of the type of technology you will be using, the type of technology guys you will be hiring. You will get a full freedom, you can get the resources anytime from the on-demand model, and you can start immediately as soon as you request the resources over the cloud. So this is a big benefit, especially for the uh, speeding up the time to market for your applications to come.
Yeah.
So
And
another
here
point is
we go ahead, Rajat.
Yeah. So another point is like benefit from massive or scale of economies, which says that as soon as you start using the more resources on cloud, you will get more benefits. So as soon as more people start attaching to the cloud environment, and it gives opportunity for the cloud companies to reduce the prices for the services so that you can use the maximum benefits of the services with the lower cost. So as soon as more people will add on, you can see like a new data regions being coming up by AWS in the Asia area and the other area. So which will help you in reducing the overall cost of the platform as well. So that is something will be a good feature to know. The next one is stop spending money running and maintenance data center. So as we talk about like big enterprise application, they spends almost 40% of their money in just maintaining the data centers and the servers that they procure, and the servers also come to a end of life and they deprecate, so they need to replace new servers. So it's a huge cost that applications are spending money just for maintaining and running the data centers, whereas with the advent of cloud, if they shift the servers to the cloud, so they can get a lot of cost benefit, because all the maintenance and all the hardware stuff is managed by the cloud providers, and organizations can focus on the application development and the business development more. So this will actually give them an advantage to spend more money on the business research and application development, rather than spending time and effort and money for the data and the server maintenance. So that is a big advantage of a cloud. And as we discussed earlier, like it's very easy to procure servers and change their configurations over the cloud. So you can request a new server in just few clicks and it will be available in few minutes. In case you want to increase or decrease the capacity of the server, that is also very easy to do on cloud. So you don't have to spend too much time. And this gives you a lot of agility in your development life cycles.
Yeah, because nowadays almost every organization prefer to work in a agile model, where you commit that okay, in every sprint you will be delivering some business value, and normally the typical duration of a sprint is 2 to 3 weeks. But if you need to wait for your resources for let's say 2 weeks, then what will happen to the agility then? So that's how like cloud supports you to be agile. Okay, let's move on to types of cloud computing now. So you must have heard these terms that infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So these are the typical cloud services, the way it is categorized. So if you can make this difference in the color coding here, that if when we talk about infrastructure as a service, then this type of cloud computer is it is most close to your on-premise infrastructure. And here these four bottom boxes are like grayed out, means these are managed by your vendor. Because if we talk about any software life cycle, so these are the different phases we have in any software. That we need to have some hardware where we will have server, storage, networking, and then on that hardware we will have some virtualization layer, and on top of that layer we will be having our operating system, middleware, and runtime running, where we will create our applications and store some data. So this is a typical need for any software. So in IaaS model, these four things like networking, storage, server, and virtualization, these are being managed by your vendor, while you will be responsible to manage the operating system, what runtime you need, what middleware you want to use, and then you will build your application and data. So when we talk about this model, means you have in the cloud resources, you have like most flexibility, that you can do any changes, any configuration changes in any of these things, while you will not be able to change any of the things related to server, storage, networking, and virtualization. So that's how you will have less overhead, but you will have less flexibility as well. Now, when we talk about platform as a service model, so you can manage your application and data, while rest everything will be managed by your cloud provider. Means you will get the machines where you have everything installed. Like let's say if you need to work on a Java stack, then you will be having machines where Java runtime is running, database is already installed. You will simply start developing your application and then store your data onto that. So this is platform as a service, and it is like most preferable method for the application developers. So they don't get into the overhead of the setting up machines. They simply get the ready machines and start building their unique applications. And in this model, like we have even less flexibility, that we cannot change, we cannot change any configurations related to our runtime, middleware, or operating system. We can simply play around our application code and data. Now, the last model
So
listed here.
apart
Go ahead,
from the
Rajat.
benefits of just using the platform as a service to reduce the time for the development, you'll also get a cost benefit here. So let me take an example. Like if you want to work on the .NET platform and the Microsoft stack, so you have to spend lots of license cost for setting up a runtime environment for your application before your development, which is a huge cost. So there is a lots of huge license cost that you need to pay for Microsoft development, and especially for the iOS development. Like if you want to develop something for the Mac OS, you have to spend lots of cost for the license. Whereas now with the cloud platforms, they're even providing a platform for the Mac OS that you can use the iOS features directly on the cloud, and you don't have to pay a huge license cost because the license cost is already converted to the pay as you go model. So you don't have to spend a huge cost for the license before starting up with this application. You just develop your application, you get a machine where you develop your application, and all the runtime and the maintenance is done by the cloud provider itself. So apart from the agility, it also gives you a cost benefits as well.
Yeah. And when we talk about software as a service, so this is something where you really need not to worry about anything. You are just using, let's say, third party applications which are available for ready made use. You will simply create your login and start using that application, and there can be like n number of examples we do see nowadays. Any email service, let's say Gmail, or other softwares like Jira, Confluence. So all these are examples of software as a service. So where you are not bothered that exactly on which technology stack this application has been coded, where it has been hosted, what kind of configuration machines are using. So you are not bothered about anything. You are simply using this service. So from the concept perspective, this is very easy to understand, that exactly what is the key difference between IES, PAS, and SAS. But when it comes to really choose when you are building a new application and you are evaluating that exactly what kind of model you should go in, then it comes very confusing. So you really need to think thoroughly that exactly how you want to use your application, in what capacity you need to use your application in future, what kind of changes, what kind of control you want to have on your application, and accordingly you should choose that whether IS model works for you or it is a PaaS or SaaS model works for you. Rajat, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, so most of the organizations are even now thinking to migrate to the SaaS model because this gives them easy adoption of the basic services, as Dipali mentioned, like email service. That is one of the very common service which every organization wants to adopt to, irrespective of whether they are technical based applications or they're any business organization. So each organizations want to have a email service, and they can get their personalized features as well using the SaaS model. So they can go to the SaaS provider and do the customization based on their requirement without maintaining any developers or any servers at their end. So this helps them to reduce a huge cost, and it also gives them a segregation, like a non-IT company did not set up a IT department just to manage the basic services like the defect management service, Jira, or the email service like Gmail. So they can just opt to the SaaS model, and with a very less cost, they can get the huge benefits and without setting up a additional overhead on their company, which is not aligning to their business goals. So this is a very big advantage of this SaaS based model.
Yeah, and I normally talk about an example here, the way I have understood this concept in layman terms. That, for example, if we are looking to buy a house, then what kind of different possibilities can be there. So let's say, if we talk about the on-premise model, where we need to take care of everything, means we need to take care, we need to choose the location, that where we want to build our house, we need to buy the land, we need to get into all the paperwork for the land, and then we need to create we need to get the approval for the layout for that particular house, and then we need to take care of everything, that how to what kind of material we want to use, and so everything, like we need to decide to build that house from scratch. So that is the more resonate with the on premise model. But when we talk about infrastructure as a service model, it means we already have a land, we already have a foundation done on that land. So we don't need to get into the overheads of paperwork for the land, identify the land, and what is the layout and everything. So everything, that foundation is already done, we just need to construct that house on that land. So that is infrastructure as a service, where we don't have flexibility, that okay, like I cannot change the location, I cannot change the size of the land, I cannot change the layout. All right. So this is how flexibility decreases, but overhead also decreases. Now, when I talk about platform as a service, it means we already have like ready to move in kind of flats. Everything is already built in, but still, if I want, I can do some customization in the interior. I don't have flexibility to change the exterior of that house, but I can change the interior. So that is platform as a service, which resonates well with the ready to move in flats. Now, when we talk about software as a service, means we have everything. Means we are just going to avail services. We are just going to a hotel. We will just use the room for the days we want for, and then like we will just pay the bills. But there we don't have any flexibility, that we cannot even change the interior. So that's how flexibility reduces, but overhead is also reduced. We just paid for the services we used. So that's how we can relate it from like real life example in layman terms, and then we can we can compare when we are like deciding that what model works well for our application. Then we can think in that direction, that exactly what kind of customization we will need in this application in future, what kind of controls we will need. Accordingly you can decide that which model works best for your use case. All right, let's move on to next bit here. Sorry. So now another thing we need to discuss is characteristics of a cloud. Means who is eligible to be called as a cloud provider? What all the bare minimum things they need to have it? Rajat, do you want to cover this one? Seems Rajat, you are on mute. Maybe some technical glitch. Okay. So when we say that in cloud we can request any kind of resources, so the one thing is that any cloud provider must be having a huge pool of resources. So they can lend these resources to the multiple tenants. But if we talk about enterprise organizations, so they already have a huge pool of resources, right? So are they the cloud provider? No, they cannot be called as a cloud provider until they fulfill the following characteristics. So, what are they? That on demand self service, that every cloud provider must be having a provision that they should be having a portal where people can request their services online, and they should be able to fulfill those requests online and on demand. So if I requested for a machine now, then I should get that machine now. And that is all in an automated online way. And then broad network access. So your infrastructure should be having the broad network access. It should not be the case that it is accessible only in the office premises or only in a specific campus. It should be available for use from anywhere in the world. All right. And it should also means we should be able to use these resources on variety of devices. We should be able to use it from the desktop, laptop, mobile, or iPads, anything. Like it should be available on variety of devices. Then next thing is resource pooling, which we discussed, that we should be having a huge pool of resources so we can fulfill the request of our customers. And then rapid elasticity. Elasticity means that we should be able to increase or decrease the infrastructure on basis on the demand. The example which we discussed, that anytime we might need to upgrade or downgrade our infrastructure. So that flexibility we should be having, that our cloud provider, if let's say I procured 4 machines for my server, but now I got an increased demand, or I want to expand my business, now instead of 4 I want 10 machines. So those 6 additional machines should be available readily. I should not be facing any waiting time to get additional machines. So that's how cloud provider should be able to handle this elasticity rapidly. And then, as we know, that cloud resources are like pay as you go, they work in pay as you go model. So each and every service should be a measurable service. So if I am using like compute resources, there should be a way to measure that how much compute I have used. If I'm dealing with the network service, then there should be a way that, okay, how much IOs I have performed, how many packets I have transferred. So means there should be a mechanism so this service can be measured, and so accordingly they can charge the customers. So these are the 5 key characteristics any cloud provider should be having. Only then they are eligible to called as a cloud provider. If they don't have any of like any one characteristic missing, they are not a cloud provider. Then we have cloud deployment models. Rajat, are you back? Seems no. Okay, so we have different cloud deployment models available, and how they are different. They are different based on that exactly where the infrastructure is available and who has got control on that infrastructure. So NIST, which is National Institute of Standards and Technology, they have defined these four deployment models: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud, on the basis of exactly where the infrastructure is available and who got access on that infrastructure. So when we talk about normally any cloud provider, whether it is AWS, GCP, Azure, or anyone else, so normally we are talking about the public clouds. So public clouds are something, its resources are available for anyone to use over the internet. And then next is private cloud. So when we talk about private cloud, it means it is private to one particular business or one particular organization. So let's say if we take example of Tata. So, like Tata has some resources which they are using just for their own companies. Then it is a private cloud, means those resources cannot be used by anyone else outside Tata. So, that is an example of private cloud. Another and most popular one is the hybrid cloud. So, hybrid cloud is something when we are mixing any two clouds or when we are mixing on premise to any cloud provider. So, this is the mostly used method. So, the example which we are discussing, let's say that we have we already have, if we talk about, let's say, small businesses uh, which are already running good with the existing resources, but now they want to expand their business. And for that expansion, they want to leverage the cloud resources. So they don't want to waste the machines or infrastructure they already have, but they also want to leverage the benefits of cloud. So for expansion they are using the cloud resources, but their current business is already running on their on premise infrastructure. So that is an example of hybrid cloud model. And if we talk about banks or any financial institutions where data security is a key, so normally the kind of approach these institutions adopt, that okay, they keep their very secure data onto their on-premise server, or maybe for some regulatory reasons or anything. So they keep their secure data on their on-premise server, while for any other processing or logs or any other needs, they leverage the cloud resources. So that is again an example of hybrid cloud. And let's say you are creating an application where you want to use some features, some services from AWS, while for few other features you want to use GCP. So that will be again example of hybrid cloud, because there you are connecting two different clouds. And the last example here is, last option here is community cloud. So, community cloud is something that you have resources which can be used by a group of people. So, let's say when we have SEZs, economy zones, where we have multiple enterprise companies in that economic zone, and if we take examples of parking service, or we if we talk about the food courts, so that is something that can be used by all the enterprise, all the companies which are available in that premises. So that is an example of community cloud. If we talk about any malls where we have like multiple businesses, and that parking facility can be used by all the vendors which are available in that premises, and similarly the food court, or if they have like any other service that can be used by all the members in that premises. So that is an example of community cloud. Rajat, do you want to add anything here? Let me quickly check that exactly what is wrong, if he is still in the session. Just give me a moment. Right. So I think Rajat, you had some network issues, so that's how you were kicked out of this session. I'm sorry. Now I joined you back in. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, Dipali, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Great. So let's carry on with the. So I think, yeah, these are the key cloud concepts, which are like generic concepts for any cloud provider. So here it is a like quick recap that what all we covered so far. So we covered on the cloud computing. So here two things to remember, that it is on-demand delivery of IT resources with pay-as-you-go model. Then we discuss the key reasons to move into the cloud, where we discuss the advantages of the cloud. So key reasons why everyone want to move on to the cloud is because of cost saving, agility, scalability, etc. And then we discussed some benefits of the cloud, where we talked about go global in minutes, trade capital expenses, stop guessing capacity, stop maintaining data centers, and agility. And then we discussed the characteristics of the cloud. So, where we understood that in order to be a cloud provider, we should at least have on demand self service portal, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured service. And then we discussed different service model, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And then we talked about different deployment models, that when we call it as a public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, or a community cloud. So I think enough talking, and let's log into the AWS console now and try to see these things in action. That whatever we are claiming that it is on demand delivery, so how exactly it is. So here I am onto the AWS Management Console, and considering since you guys are new, so let me log in onto this in front of you. So if we go to aws.amazon.com, when you will create your login for the first time, then it will ask for the credit card details, and it will deduct 2 rupees in your credit card, and that will be credited back after the verification. Something is wrong with the network, it seems. So since I already have an account, so I simply go to sign in. Something is wrong with my network, it looks like. Am I audible? Rajat, can you please confirm?
Yeah, Dipali, I can hear you.
Okay. So finally, means since means I keep on logging into this browser, so my credentials are already stored in the browser cookies. So that's how it didn't ask me for the login and password. So when we log into our AWS account, this is the very first page we see. So this is a kind of dashboard where we see the recently visited services, and then you can see some like other key services also listed here. And if you want to have a look, this dashboard keep on changing every few days. So like I'm struggling that where I can see the all the services here, but here it is. So this is the area where we can see that exactly what all different categories are. So here on the left hand side, we can see the different categories. And let's say if I'm going to databases. So here I can see the various services available in the database category. Similarly, if I go to containers, here I can see different services available for the containers area. And then if I go to storage, here I can see different services for various storage purposes. So now let's say what we are trying to do, that we want to create a machine, and we will use this machine as a web server. So we will create a simple web application, hello world kind of, and we will just we are just requesting this machine in the AWS cloud. So for that, I need to go into the compute category because I need compute when I'm talking about a machine. So EC2 is the service here which gives us virtual servers in the cloud. So I will use this EC2 service. Please bear with me. My network is pretty slow, it seems. So when we choose to create any resources, the one thing we need to ensure that exactly where we want to create these resources. So here on the top right corner, we can see Northern Virginia is picked here. So here we have like different regions where we can create these resources. So like either means sitting in India, I can either create my resources in London, I can also create my resources in Asia Pacific. I can choose Mumbai here, or like I can create my resources in North Virginia. So, for example, I'm developing an application which is to be used by the US population. Then I can choose to create my resources in Northern Virginia region for better latency. Okay, so let's pick Northern Virginia only time being. So I'm going to create a machine in Northern Virginia region. So I'll simply click on launch instance. And the very first step here is that it asks us to choose a AMI, which is Amazon Machine Image, which is the base image we need to pick, that what kind of machine we want to create. Whether we want to create a Linux machine, we want to create a Windows machine, Mac machine, anything. So we need to create a base image first. And here we get an option to choose free tier only. If we want to remain in the free tier, we don't want any like huge bills in our account, then it is recommended that you select this box, because we are just doing it for like discovery purposes. We are just doing some hit and tries. We are not launching the real application. So I'm choosing this Linux machine here, which is listed very first in this list. And then it asks that, okay, when you pick the operating system, that what kind of configuration you are looking for. So here we get multiple combinations of CPUs and memory, that you want one CPU and zero point 0.5 memory, you want one CPU and 1 GB memory. So what kind of configuration you are looking for? But since this T2 micro, this has this free tier eligible tag, so I'll go with this. Then it means I'm going to get one CPU and 1 GB memory. Then we need to uh, configure the instance detail, that exactly what kind of instance I'm looking for.
So
The
just to
example.
add, so if you see a tag free tier eligible, it does not means that those services are free for use. It's just that Amazon provides a specific quota under free tier. So you need to keep a watch on your billing dashboard, like you're not exceeding your free tier usage. Otherwise, Instead of a free tier, they'll start getting the charges on your account.
Yeah, so when we talk about compute resources, so in free tier we get 750 hours limit in our free tier quota. And then here we can configure the our machine details basically. So in our example, let's say we want to create 4 identical machine, then I can simply say 4 here and it will create 4 machine of the similar configuration. But for this demo purpose, let's stick to 1 because 4 machine means like means I will be charged 4 times. Okay, and then most of the settings I'll go with the default, and we will discuss in detail about these settings in our future sessions, but for time being let's go with the default. But one thing I would like to change here, which is like user data. Since I want to use my machine as a web server, means I want to install some like Apache server onto this. So for that, I can provide an bootstrap script here. Means I can provide some instruction that when you give me this machine, please make sure this thing is already installed. So where is that bootstrap script? It is here. So this is the Medium blog, where which is like learning hyphen Dipali, and there you can see create web server in AWS. So here you will see there's a small shell script. So I'm simply copying this script into the user data section here. So let me tell you what this script is doing. That this is simple shebang shell instruction, and then we are giving sudo, means we are elevating the privileges, and we are simply taking the updates. Then we are installing the Apache server, which is HTTPD server, and then we are starting these services. We are switching on the configurations, and then we are going into this default directory of Apache server, which is where www.html, and inside this directory I'm creating one file which is index.html, and then inside this index.html I'm simply giving this text, so we can change this text to anything. So let's say demo machine for community meetup. Okay, and then we can check other configurations. Means as we said, we can change the configuration. So we can, means by default it is like 8 GB machine as a root volume, but if I want, I can add more volumes here. So that's how we can add volumes. We can add any tags. Tags are nothing but just labels, that if I have multiple machines running in my account, so I can label them, so I can identify them for different purposes. So let's say I'm providing name as my demo server, and then I can configure security group. So security group acts as a firewall. So you have complete control on your machine, that whom you want to give access onto this machine. So either you can give this access to any individual IPs, or you can give this access to the range of IPs. You can give this access on specific protocols. So all those things you can actually provide here. So by default, it has SSH port open, which is port 22, and it is open for 000, means it is open for everyone in the internet. All right. But since I'm creating this machine to use as a web server, it means I want to use this machine from browser. I want to access this application from browser. Means I want to open HTTP port in here. So here it is. So by default, I'm opening like port 80 for HTTP protocol, and I want to access this application from anywhere in the world. So I'm just using this 000 here. Okay. Please keep on writing your doubts and queries in the comment box. So we will like talk about them in a while. Then we are done with all the required configuration. Here it has given us warning that you can improve your instance security because our security group is open to the world. So in cloud, you will find that you have liberty to configure security at each and every layer. So in like EC2, like we can configure security with the help of firewalls, with the help of security groups. And then when we can simply review the configuration and hit launch. When we launch this machine, it asks for a key pair. This is an additional layer of security. So key pair is nothing. It is a combination of private and public key. So when Amazon create these resources, they have a public key on this machine. And then we can create our private key. So either we can use this any existing key pair or we can create a new key pair. So let's say I'm creating a new key pair and I'm giving it name demo meetup, demo meetup key pair. Okay. So the role of key pair is that until I provide this key pair, until I provide this combination of public and private key, I cannot SSH to this machine. And we need to download this key pair. And if this key pair is lost for some reason, I won't be able to log into this machine. All right. Then we can simply hit launch instances. So you can notice at 11:56, I have launched this instance. So now we need to see that how much time it will take to make this machine available to us. All right. So let's say, let's check the instance details. So here on the dashboard, on the EC2 dashboard, we can see. So here currently it is showing instant status pending. So it will change to running. So now we can notice that it is already turned to running. But here it will also complete the status checks. So it performs the 2x2 status checks. One is for hardware and another is for software. So once it complete these status checks, then we should be able to access this machine. And normally it takes 2 to 3 minutes. And when I selected this, so here I can see the metadata related to this machine, means what is the IP. So here we can see that this is the public IP, this is the private IP for my machine, and what is the DNS. Okay. And if I need to check the security details, then we can see that we have attached this security group. And if we want to make further changes to this security group, we can edit this. And in mount rule, we can see that we have these two ports open as of now. And here you can check the networking, storage, and respective metadata for that particular server. You can check here. So if I try to refresh this, then we can see its status is initializing. So I think it should take a few more seconds to come up. But meanwhile, let's try to access that. So this is the public DNS for this machine. So I'm simply copying this DNS and I will try to access it from browser. Since status checks are not complete, but yeah, still like I can access this. So I hope by now it should also be available. It is still initializing, but yes, still this machine is accessible now. It has completed the hardware software checks in the background, but it is just a matter of reflecting the status here. So here you can see that I tried to procure a simple basic Linux machine where I gave an instruction in the user data itself that, okay, install Apache server and create this script index.html. And this is my web application where I have simply displayed that It is a demo machine for community meetup. Now, instead of this simple plain English text, I can have like great graphics, a full-fledged application with multiple pages and all. So we can create fancy applications here, which looks like a real application. So let me take a pause here and let's discuss if we have any questions. I'm just going back to the.
Thanks a lot, Dipali, for the wonderful demo. Yeah, I don't think there are any questions in the comment boxes. So there was only one, if we can downgrade the disk space, so which we have already answered, like we can increase or decrease the disk space anytime. But for few cloud providers, we may need to shut down the servers before increasing or decreasing the disk space. But yeah, it is allowed in all the cloud providers most of the time.
Okay, great. So if you don't have these questions, any doubts right now, and if you get any question at later point in time when you are actually trying to create machines or actually trying to do some hands-on in the AWS area, so please feel free to post them in the comment box. We will like review and address them as and when you post your questions. But in order to gear up for the next session, so this 1 hour which you spent on your Saturday, so it does not go waste. So if you think that yes, it is something you would like to explore further, so we would recommend that please try hands-on. If you have not created AWS account yet, then please do create AWS account and try to create a simple machine the way I created, and just post a snapshot of that machine on the LinkedIn, tag us there, and let the world know that what kind of unique applications you have created and you have started new learnings. Does that sounds good?
So Dipali, I could see few questions now in the comment box.
Okay, let
So the
me
very
check.
first is how to modify this text we provide during instance creation at later stage. So yeah, you can edit the text.
Great.
So you
So
can go to the options and then
maybe I
you
can
can.
share my machine again so
Yeah,
they
sure,
can
Dipali,
see
that will
that
be
how
great.
to do that. So Rajat, maybe you can read these questions one by one, because when I'm showing this AWS console, I'm not able to read that question. So yes, first of all, how to change the user data or how to change the text which we have given in the beginning. So there are two ways. One is that you can go to actions and then in instance setting we have this option edit user data. So you can simply edit your user data here. Okay. But if we want to make any changes here, I need to stop my machine. And how to stop this? That if I simply right click and do stop instance, then that user data will be in editable form. So I can simply change the text there and can start this machine again. So that is one way. Another way that I can actually SSH into this machine. So let me quickly show that how to SSH. Rajat, do you think that we have enough time to do SSH or we should park it for next session?
Yeah, Dipali, I think we're already over time, so we can park it for next time. Just to
Okay.
add, like this user data is only picked up at a restart of a machine. So that is why you have to stop the instance, update the user data, and then again restart the instance to apply the new changes.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, that we can actually log into the machine. We can go to that folder that where www.html, and then I can simply use any editor like VI editor, and I can edit the index.html. So that is something we will show you in the next session in detail when we will cover more details related to EC2 or other compute services available in AWS. But for time being,
Specifically,
I think
yeah.
that answers your question. That first time you can provide any text in the user data, and later you can change it using actions and edit user data, instance settings, and
Moving
then
to the
edit user
next
data.
question, which is what is the difference IP addresses we got? So one was public IP and one was private IP. So can you explain a bit on both them?
Okay, so public IP is something because we made this machine, we provision this machine with the intent that we will be using it publicly from the internet. Then, in order to use it from internet, I must be having this public IP. If I don't have this public IP, I won't be able to use this machine on this like browser on internet. Okay, so if I want to use this machine as a web server, then I need to have public IP here. But let's say if I want to create a machine and I want to create a database server. So I want to keep that database server private. I don't want to make that database server available onto the internet. Then I need not to assign, in order to have better security, I need not to assign this public IP address to my machine. I will be simply having private IP address, so it can talk to other resources. Like, for example, I have database server, then I have application server. So my database server can internally talk to application server, but my database server is not accessible from internet. So those kind of things we can do, and these are available in the configuration when we were doing the instance configuration. When we created this machine and we provided all these configuration where we provided the user data, on the same page we have these settings, and we will talk about these different configuration in detail in our upcoming session. Rajat, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, you have pretty much covered everything, Dipali. So moving to the
Great.
last question, how can we prepare for AWS certification? And can you also provide some task as homework so that we can try and discuss in the next session?
Great. Yes. So, homework, as I called out, that please do create a similar machine. And instead of this one liner text, maybe you can add any pictures, or you can stick to simple hello word. So, it's up to you. So, intent is that create a web server and post it on AWS. And so, means you're creating your first application. Like I created sitting in India, I hosted my application in Northern Virginia. So similarly, I request you to please go ahead and create simple or unique web server. It's up to you. Uh, Means you want to create a simple, basic, or a fancy one, and so create the server, take the snapshot of this page, and post it on LinkedIn. So we get to know that exactly what you have created, and let the world know that you are also learning new things, and we will keep on exploring these things together.
So for
And
the second answer, like how to prepare
yeah,
for AWS certification. So keep a watch on this space. It is just a first session today, and we'll be covering more topics and more services in the coming time. So do let us know in the comment box if you want specific service to be covered. We'll definitely include that service. And this is just a basic sessions that we are covering, and later on the scope of the sessions will increase to the intermediate and advanced level as well, and then you will get lots of knowledge about preparing for the certification exams as well.
yeah, we will
Mhm.
also cover that exactly what different certifications are available in AWS, and we will help you that exactly which certification is useful for which role. So you can choose that exactly which certification you should go for. But yes, here in this basic series, we are covering the core services which are applicable for all the certifications available in the AWS space. So we will cover these services, we will give you the knowledge, and then based on your feedbacks, we will cover specific sessions for specific certification, let's say solution architect or something. All right, do post your comments after you have created your application, and if you face any difficulties, feel free to ask questions. We are here to help you, and I hope you find it useful. And if you are finding it interesting, trust me, it is very interesting. And but it will interest you only when you really try to dive deep into it. Otherwise, it will make no sense. So spare some time, do these hands on, and then let's connect again. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you,
Rajat,
everyone. Bye bye.
great. Thanks.